they fell from grace a couple of years ago, and it's only getting worse. So I would recommend the old stuff, but definitely not the new stuff. As a band is starting to do something different, create a new subgenre. I don't fit 100% here and 100% there. Nowadays, when I work, I cannot listen to metal anymore because it's too complicated. It's too much taking attention away from me.
All right. Thank you for joining us for a very special episode of the Longplayers Club. Today we have a guest, and our guest is none other than Cologne's very own, or Boyled's very own, Jay Koopman, drummer extraordinaire. Thank you for joining us, Jay. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm great. A little tired, but I'm excited to talk about my new favorite genre. What about you, Isa? How you doing?
Oh,
Yeah, honestly, I have to say I was not able to listen to all of your recommendations, but I'm keen to listen to your conversation.
Great, great. Well, I guess before we jump into your recommendations and talking about the music itself, let's hear a little bit more about you. Tell us about your journey. How did you get into Boiled? How did you get into playing drums? And how did you get into metal?
yeah. So good that you say that I am a metal drummer. That's important information, I guess. So Boiled is a death metal band here based in Cologne. So basically, what happened was after COVID, like when my old band was like separating, I was searching for grabbing some kind of hobby again, and I wasn't playing in the band for I think at that point 3 years already, or maybe 4. And with things settled down, like moving to Cologne and starting my job here and everything, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe it's time for a band again. So I hit up some platforms where people are searching for other musicians. And I was just like giving all kinds of genres that I like to listen to and maybe also experiment in, right? And one of those is obviously death metal, because what I'm interested in is always getting a bit better, like more and more, like having some kind of practice while I'm starting to experiment with stuff. So then some guy wrote me. That guy then in the end became the singer of our band. And he
Cool.
was like, "Hey, let's set up like a new project." He already had a guitarist that he also got to know, I think, over the same platform.
Which
And
platform is
thus,
it, if you don't mind me asking?
that's a good question. I mean, a lot of people do it via like these big platforms like Bandcamp or something like that. But this was a smaller one. I didn't check it out since then anymore, and it's already 2.5 years
Well,
ago.
I was just curious because I recently met someone who was searching for a drummer, and she said she looked over Tinder, actually. So I was
Tinder.
wondering, yeah, I was wondering if there, but it sounds like there are, established platforms where people are doing this, are not
Yeah,
mixed up with dating.
I remember again, it was Mucken.
Okay.
Mucken.com or something. I think it's German
Yeah,
based,
with Mucke, I would guess
actually.
it's .de, but
Yeah,
could be
could
not.
be.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like basically a small platform, right? And you also have to give your mobile phone and everything for connection. And I don't think there's a lot of activity there, but as I say that, I remember like afterwards and from time to time getting some requests to also play in other bands. But basically, yeah, that was super random, right? Like people just from Cologne were wanting to set up the project, writing me, and I was like you guys are the first, let's check it out. And
Let's
then
do it.
we met for a beer, and then they were like, yeah, we already met. Like the singer and the
Yeah.
guitarist already met. They were already like having a rehearsal, like with drinking beer. So the first
Uh-huh.
rehearsals were like, let's see if we all can drink beer.
Let's see if we can all drink
It's
beer
such a,
together.
I don't know. It's such a metal thing to do, right?
Is
Like,
it? Is
yeah,
drinking?
kind of.
Is there heavy drinking culture in the metal scene?
Yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely. I mean, there's all kinds of cultures, but there's also like the straight edge stuff, right? And where people don't drink anything, and I guess like in every other
Yeah, of course.
genre, you have everything. But like alcohol is often some part of it, right?
Okay, fair.
Heavy metal leads to heavy drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, But it's a stereotype as well, so
Yeah,
don't
okay.
take it too seriously. But
Okay.
nevertheless, in this in this aspect, we had, I think, overall 2 or 3 rehearsals where we
Yeah,
only did
okay.
this because we didn't have like a rehearsal room yet, right? So basically, we didn't have any songs. We already like started to hang out, which is nice. So the chemistry was good, which is already a very good lead for what's to come. And then we started searching for some rehearsal rooms quite heavily, and also for a bassist because what is like rock music without a bass? Yeah, then we searched around the place and we found something in Ehrenfeld actually, not too far away from where we all live, and was like some shady underground like oil basement where they stored these huge oil tanks, right? And it smelled like shit. But yeah, there we then started to have the first rehearsals, and from start on it was like chemistry, right?
That's
We
great.
directly like wrote 3 songs in 3 weeks or something, which
Mhm.
I never had in any band before. So that was very
What's the writing
very effective.
process like? Is it very collaborative? Are you each writing your own parts? Like, are you writing the drum part, or are you all kind of speaking together? How does that work? Or is it some songs more people are more active on other things, or what's the process like?
So basically, from all my experience in all kinds of different bands, it's mostly from what is my experience, right? It's mostly the guitarist comes with some riff
Okay.
he thought about, and then you start to play some drums with that. You can have some like, how do you want it more heavy? Do you want to like more laid back or something? But often, if you vibe, then you don't have to talk about it, right?
Okay.
Then you have like some kind of flow that going on, and then you start to define, right? You'll be like, oh, that sounds pretty like melodic, so it's rather something for the bass part, or like you want some chorus part that is more like slow or more like less technical, and then you start to define those things. Yeah, and then you're going and be like, okay, like I want this part behind the other one, then we can repeat it. And then you start piece by piece to form some kind of structure in your song. And the more experience you get, we are all now experienced musicians, I would say, right?
Wow.
But the easier this stuff goes, yeah, it's the age.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that experience.
Oh,
I,
very
I
cool.
wouldn't I wouldn't call any of us like professionals, but I would say experienced amateurs, right?
Well, on professional, I think what defines a professional is, that you're actually, you're performing, you're doing the damn thing. And you've got a show coming up. So you've had shows before, or is this Boyled's first show?
No, it's not Boyd's first show.
Okay.
It's like already the fourth or fifth
Okay.
show of Boyd. Yeah. So we exist since 2 years and or 2.5 maybe now. And we started like writing quite heavily on music, and thus we were pretty early on, from my experience, already like prepared to do any kind of gig, right? And we even couldn't take part in our first gig, which was this exact same location. Basically, I think about a year ago, where our guitarist got sick, so we couldn't participate. But yeah, right after that, I think a month or two later, we already had then our first gig, basically. And then we were able to like play a couple of gigs now.
What was it like the first time you guys performed together?
Actually, we still didn't have a bassist at that point, so we were just playing with 3 people, just going on stage doing our stuff. But I don't know, like as I said, we're experienced, so we all had gigs before, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, at least for me, I was basically not that nervous anymore. Like
Hmm.
even if my last gig was already like at that point 5 6 years ago, I was still like I knew the songs, I knew what I can do, and especially like with music that's not recorded yet, it's easy to sometimes be not
You can be a
that,
little more
exactly.
improvisational, a little bit more like a jazz singer, whatever. Just do your
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Okay, okay. Have you
And
ever
especially,
had an error? Have you ever made a big mistake on stage?
actually, since I think at least 20 years, not anymore, right?
That's
So
pretty impressive.
when I was young, yeah, maybe sometimes, right? But as I said before, if you're not like super professional and you play basically what you're doing on your albums or something, even the small mistakes, like I'm a perfectionist, so like I do something wrong, I'm pissed on the end, right? I'm like, oh
Stop the
shit, this
show.
is
Everybody
so
get
bad.
off.
Exactly,
Doing it again.
exactly. Let's start the song again,
Yeah.
right? But you'll never do. So at some point you also learn to like continue a song.
Mm-hmm.
What can happen all the time live is a guitar is like going mute, or the singer messes up, or something that is unexpectedly happening. And when you're not experienced, you may get confused by it, or maybe stop like the song altogether. But overall, like nowadays, like with experience, you go and you just continue, because that's the only thing that you can do, right? And that's the only thing that makes sense, because yeah, it looks unprofessional if you don't. Especially also, you have a time slot, like you have 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you have your 10, 12 songs or whatever you fit in that time slot, and you don't want to mess them up, because afterwards the next band comes. It doesn't matter if you stop and you wait and you do it all over, right? That also confuses all the people.
Yeah, of course. Well, speaking about the people, I guess, have you guys developed a fan base yet? Are you recognizing some regulars coming to repeat shows?
It's a good question. I think it's still a lot of friends basically that come to the show. So I guess it's still some, yeah, fan base through friend base,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
But what we see already is like requests from other booking, like labels or stuff, that say then, band is like missing, or they got sick. Do you want to come and play for us, right? Yeah, and then you have to see if you actually have time,
Yeah,
because we're
yeah,
all
fair.
working
Exactly.
people, right? So that's a problem then. I mean, sometimes you got more gigs, sometimes you got less.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah,
And I'm sorry for my unprofessionalism. Let's shout out the gig right now. So this is Valhalla, April 4th, this coming Saturday. Get your tickets. There's tickets still available, I'm hoping. Available
I
at
think so.
the Valhalla website or on Eventim. I think you can also get them there,
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah, Demonology is, I think, the non-label that are selling
Okay.
those
Okay.
tickets. They like do this series of gigs, right? Especially like metal stuff, and shout out to them.
Shout out to them. Great. Well,
And
get your tickets, everyone. Let's get the
exactly,
show
exactly.
going. Now, let's
Yeah,
talk a bit about metal because you mentioned you are playing in a death metal band. I have learned
exactly.
over the past couple weeks that there are a lot of subgenres in metal, and maybe without getting too technical, I guess, could you describe a little bit about maybe what your experience with these subgenres are? How much overlap is there? Do the fans tend to stick to a subgenre, or is there a lot of movement within the community? And, even just within your own band itself, do you have certain songs that are maybe more of a different subgenre? Or, yeah, because I didn't really even know where to start, honestly, when looking into other metal bands, because it just seems there is so much variety.
I mean, it's fair, because like metal has like quite the history, but also you have to imagine like a lot of people, from what I experience, that go and play metal are often already pretty good in their instrument, right? So obviously there's a lot of variety. So besides death metal, you for example have black metal, you
Mhm.
have like the classic heavy metal stuff, but then also some more modern stuff like metalcore, hardcore, which is discussable if hardcore is metal. I would
Okay.
argue yes, but that's coming
Controversial.
it's coming then from like punk, right? You have like the hardcore direction, you have the metalcore direction. They mix a lot and have history together. It's complicated.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And then you have slam, you have like this technical metal, you have all kinds of subgenres. The
Hmm.
problem is basically, as as soon as a band is starting to do something a little bit different,
New
they are
subgenres born.
exactly creative new subgenre,
Okay.
because then they don't fit 100% here and 100% there.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not 100% true, because if something really sticks or something is like really they have a lot of famousity coming out, like they get really famous through something. There's a lot of bands that basically go in the same direction, right? Because it's easier to say like, "Hey, let's just follow the rules of this
Sure.
genre." Maybe you go a little bit left and a little bit right, but you always have like these waves of new genres that are developed, and then a couple of big names that do exactly that, and then basically when the genre gets less popular, they also fall out of famosity. Is that a word? I
Popularity,
don't know.
maybe?
Oh my god, yes,
Sure.
popularity.
It all works.
Uh,
We know what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, perfect.
What's your favorite subgenre other than obviously your own band? Obviously, other than death metal, what are you liking?
I think like metalcore is something that defined my 20s basically, right? That's one subgenre that influenced me a lot. Even if I would not directly say that I try to play in that direction, I'm 100% sure that I'm
Okay.
trying to, right? So metalcore is big, but I'm not sure if you call nowadays metal also still metalcore, but there is still a big community behind there, even if it's not too modern anymore.
Hmm.
But they are now,
What's the most famous metalcore band you can recommend?
I think, who was starting off a lot in this direction was SLA Dying. That's basically a very big name, but yeah, they fell from grace a couple of
No.
years ago, and it's only getting worse. So I would like recommend the old stuff, but definitely not the new stuff.
Okay.
But so my personally favorite band in that regard is August Burns Red, because they are still like the same guys from the past, and the drummer, he's like, "Mwah." Like
Yeah.
I love that guy, like he's so good. But like technically, not
Mhm.
not directly he's the fastest or the
Sure.
heaviest or whatever, but like from the technique
Mm.
wise, like that's one of my favorite guys. Like also always after I see them, I try to get to the front, do like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're
Ah,
like the best, and I love you,
cool.
man."
Very
It's
cool.
perfect.
Have
Yeah,
you gotten to play with anyone that you were listening to when you were younger, or that you were influenced by, or who would be I mean, other than him, I guess, who would be your dream to play with?
that's a very good question. Like, I think he would be probably the guy like that I would like to be recognized by, right?
Mhm.
But I'll never be like, I'm not never
Never
ever
say
reaching those
never.
heights. I don't think so. No, no. But also that would be fantastic, right? But yeah, I mean, there was one band that was coming from the same town that I was coming from, like a small village. They are called Personal War. And when I was growing up with my best friend who was living one street further, he was like a neighbor of them, and we were always like, "Oh my god, they live there. They're so cool." And we had their albums and everything. And like when I finished with my old band, when we were separating, like our last concert was with them. So
Okay.
that was a childhood dream where I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we did it, right?"
Yeah,
It was
yeah. Very cool.
I
Well,
loved it.
speaking I mean, not even just about metal, maybe it sounds like you've been into metal for a while if you were listening to these guys, when you were growing up. But tell us a little bit about your music history in general. I mean, what sort of stuff do you listen to? What was your awakening? What sort of early albums do you remember being really inspired by or really passionate by? And yeah, what is it like? Was it like in your house growing up? Were your parents really into this stuff too? How did your love of music start?
In metal, no, they weren't. Absolutely, they weren't in metal. But I would say still somehow. I think the most metalish stuff that came from my parental house was like Meatloaf,
Okay.
right?
Meatloaf, metal.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, metal. Like my mother also listened to ABBA stuff, right?
Yeah. That classic
And
metal band ABBA, yeah.
classic, right? But that was kind of the, or some like hippie music, right?
Uh-huh.
Some Boudewijn de Groot or something, right? Some Dutch stuff, and there was not too much influence in that regard, I would say. But I think like I have two big brothers, and my oldest brother is like 5 years older than me, and he started to get more rocky and more like going in that direction, right? But I think like this entire influence from the metal stuff, like he then started to bring home in the beginning like some stuff from Bloodhound Gang, right? There were
Okay, yeah.
some guitars there, and then Guano Apes, and then stuff like that that started to get a little bit more heavy, right?
Hmm.
But it's still not metal. But at some point, he started to bring home Danzig, Metallica, Motorhead, like Megadeth or something like that. And it was then the first contact. And I remember that like I got stuck on Iron Maiden.
Hmm, okay.
So Maiden was basically the first metal that I was really listening to. And if you listen to that now, it's still metal, right? It's the definition of metal, but it's coming from rock. You definitely hear it.
Yeah.
But what they already defined, right, was this super guitar heavy, super technical music where you have like a lot of different varieties inside. You have a good singer, you have very good guitarist, a good drummer in that time, and they were already like performing for such a long time that there was so many albums out. I could listen to everything, but still at the same time, other bands came up that were more listened to by my friends as well, like Slim Biscuit, Papa Roach, like at some point, so Paramore,
Well, yeah, I was
right?
gonna ask. I remember you said you were a fan of Paramore.
Yeah, actually, true. Yeah, I saw them live, which is kind of strange for a metal guy to say, but that's the thing, right? Even if you're in the genre, you still listen to a lot of different other
Of
stuff,
course.
right? And especially that's the funny thing, like Limp Bizkit or Papa Roach or stuff like that. That's like a combination of the more heavier stuff with like rap, hip hop. So you then also come into contact with the other genres, and you also like start to like stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
And then also like later, okay, way later, but you also saw some metal people transferring to drum and bass or something, right? And thus you see, even if inside the genre you're often like stuck somehow in some yeah, gatekeeping community that
Okay.
tries to be like, hey,
Yeah.
you have to be true basically to be a real metalhead.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that go in all the directions, and that wasn't for me as well. So my introduction into harder metal was then also coming from like my middle brother. Then he brought back the album that I recommended for today,
Mm.
right? And that was the first time I really got into contact with like scream, like growling, right? And then via his friends group that I then also started to join later, because we then only were like 2.5 years separated. I started to go with him to some parties, whatever. And then suddenly like all these other bands also joined, right? The heavy stuff, the more softer stuff like Incubus, or like even Depeche Mode stuff, right? I didn't like
Oh,
it, but
Isa
I
perked
still
up.
hear it.
Isa perked up for Depeche Mode.
No, no, please, please. But yeah, then also sometimes there was like this really, really heavy stuff where I was also like, okay, no, this is not for me, right? So, but that was very helpful. So I took that, and then I also brought it into my friends group, and then we also started to listen way more to this kind of music. And yeah, there was a time where I really abandoned everything else and really was only in this genre, and there's a lot to discover there.
Totally. Well, what's your what album or artist, I guess, do you really like that would become as a total shock to someone that's expecting you to be, a total metalhead? What's your least on brand favorite album or artist?
Oh my god, that's a question. Wow. I think Paramore's way up there, I have to
Really?
say.
Okay. Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess so. I mean, it's I think, I mean, so female fronted in the first way, like bands. You have them nowadays in metal. They're coming,
Yeah, I
and it's
heard one.
also
Is it
really
Spirit
cool.
Box? Is that the
Spirit Box, for
yes, yeah.
example,
I listened to
but
that
also
song.
Ginger, with whom they are playing, right? That woman, she has a voice like it's incredible. Like, and they are that's there's one song like I cannot tell you how it's named from the top of my head, but like where they're doing like this acoustic thing, and then for the refrain they're starting to, like, for the chorus they're starting to scream, and she does it so nicely that you take like all these normal musicians, or I listen to everything people, you show it to them and they're like totally in shock as soon as she starts to really growl. I love it. But yeah, I don't know, like, you also have stuff like the Ärzte, like German bands, or Kassierer, which is like really, really bad music basically. But the thing is, metalheads love this shit, right? They still invite them to their festivals, they still go there, they still listen to that. So it's hard to shock people. I think I would rather shock people with saying like, yeah, I listen to metal, but I also go to fusion or something, you know?
Okay. Okay. Well, you mentioned before that your mom was listening to Dutch music. We have to ask, what about Dutch Schlager? Are you listening to that at all?
Well, Dutch Schlager and German Schlager are often the same. Did you know that they are like often cooperating, writing each other's
Yes.
song and then just translate it? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We had an experience with that last summer. We were treated to a lovely playlist on our car ride to Utrecht and got to hear some of the classics. So,
The
yeah,
class.
okay. Well, we don't have to talk too much on that. Is there anything else you want to share with your background before we talk about the albums that we recommended?
Good question. No, I don't think so, actually. I had, from my experience, a way straightforward way into metal, and then it started at some point, like if you listen to it enough, to deviate from there. But at some point, I don't know, like what's interesting at some point was that you hit a spot where you are also getting listened through, you're getting, it's not annoyance, but at some point, for example, nowadays when I work, I cannot listen to metal anymore because it's too complicated, it's too much taking attention away from me while I have to work. So their electronic music definitely has its upcoming, right? Because
Okay.
that's something you can listen to in the background, gives you a different kind of vibe if you want to, right? Which metal basically it can do as well. Like you also have melodic parts in metal, or like acoustic songs and stuff. Yeah, in these other genres you sometimes can go more soft if you want to, right?
I totally agree. My most listened genre is lo-fi, actually. I don't know any artist or any song by name, but I listen to it a lot while working because I have the same thing. I get too distracted by my favorite songs.
I'm the complete
Yeah.
opposite. I want lyrics, I want loud, I want energy, I want to listen to proper music while I'm working. So I'm totally different in that way. I think that means I have nothing actually going on in my brain, and that's why I'm able to listen to other stuff. But it's all good with me because I really had fun listening to the albums you recommended while working last week. Yeah, maybe we should talk about those. Do we want to start maybe with In Flames? This is kind of, I think, very on the metal topic. Maybe you can introduce this a little bit. Why did you recommend this? What made you think of this album?
Yeah, it's a good question because there are so many albums out there that I could recommend, right? Which are very good and definitely worth talking about. But this is like, was the first thing basically when you asked me that time ago already, like, do you want to talk about the album? This was the first thing that popped up. But then I was like, it's already old. Like, nobody cares. Or like the scene, the people in the scene, they know it, right? They know it. They basically accept the album, right? But for me, it was like the kick off this heavier this heavier area, which I have to say I stuck, like, concerning metal. Nowadays it's even more heavy, but I think also, as I know that you guys aren't like regulars
We're not
in
metalheads.
metal, exactly. I still thought that this is like melodic and classic enough for you to get the grasp why this transition was something that I got stuck with. And most importantly, this album also marks in the history of this band like a start into a different kind of metal for themselves. So basically what they did before was way more in the death metal scene, right? In the death metal way of writing music, and you definitely can hear that. The albums before were also very good, right? Clayman, Colony, those were very nice albums, but they were a different genre. And they basically took this album as an approach to redefine themselves,
Well, I was
right?
going to ask, do you think that's the title even, Reroute to Remain? Is that also does that kind of show that they're taking a new direction in order to stay relevant, in order to stay at the top of their game?
I think so, especially like the Remain part, right? I think that they were saying, okay, like in that time there were a couple of like these Sweden death metal bands that had a different kind of vibe to it, and they were not the only ones that made this kind of like Sweden death metal, but they definitely saw that they wanted to change in some regard. And I'm pretty sure that they rerouted themselves, like their music, to, yeah, what you said, remain. They wanted to remain in the genre, but also remain like being part of
The
like
zeitgeist, huh?
the zeitgeist. Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's and from that album, if you listen more to the future and everything that came after, they stuck with it, right? So they really shifted the entire gears, and they also this made them become a way bigger band overall. So
Yeah, they
it
seem
was a
quite
very
iconic in the scene. It
it
seems like
was a
everyone I spoke to seems to know them and know this album especially.
yeah, definitely. Because I mean, the couple of albums that came after also are very good, right? They some of them are even better than this. I would have also recommended other ones, but this was really from me because my brother brought it. It was 2002. He bought it because he was so in love with it, and I directly understood why. I showed it to my friends. Also, my friends, like if they can recommend like an album, they would definitely take this one
Yeah.
because that was the kickoff into everything that was harder but also like this melodic, and thus this makes sense. I was 14 at the time, so that was then also with all this Metallica stuff and this normal metal stuff, the transition, or for me the kickoff to really go into some other
Where
direction.
would we be without older siblings? I feel we were talking about this too, that so much of the influence of the music that I listen to is definitely started by my older sister and, the older brothers of friends and stuff like this. And it's so funny. Yeah, everyone's taste is just defined by what their older siblings or the older siblings of their friends listen to. That's hilarious. What about so maybe I'll just quickly mention my impressions of this album, and then Easy, you could talk about yours as well. When I heard this, I didn't know anything about the metal genre. I had never actively listened to it. I mean, yeah, as you mentioned before, like Metallica, does that even count as metal? Probably not. It's just hard rock, I guess. Yeah. Okay, sure, whatever. I don't want the purist on Reddit coming for me, so I'm not saying anything. But bands like that, okay, sure, I've heard that before. But this growling, this kind of screaming, I had never really listened to before. This album to me, though, seems like if I could point in a dictionary to what I think metal is, it is this album. This sounded exactly what I would have expected. I was shocked by how easy I found it to listen to it. I think I had always thought to myself, oh, yeah, this is not really my genre. It's too hard, every time there's Eurovision or whatever, and it's Finland or Sweden or Iceland, and they're all these guys in black leather with their studs, like screaming, and I'm just like, next, change it. But honestly, to actually listen to it and to actually kind of focus your attention on it, it's interesting and it's really much easier to get along with than I would have thought. So I really enjoyed listening to something totally different than what I would have probably put on myself. And I was really curious about the genre after listening to this album a few times. So I sourced some opinions from some metal friends and was asking for, recommendations, other things to listen to. And that's when I realized it all sounds so different. So it really is these subgenres that I guess you really pick something that sounds so quintessential metal, at least to a normie like me, a non-metal person, that it was really cool to hear that and then listen to kind of this newer stuff that's coming out now. And what's really popular now, which I guess is Bad Omens was the band that I was recommended for that. And it sounds night and day. It doesn't even sound like it's in the same genre. And it's cool, but you can see how maybe this album would have influenced stuff like that and how this is kind of the genesis of how things, yeah, went in this genre. So it was really cool to listen to. And Isa, what about you? What are your original thoughts before we dive into the specifics?
Yeah, as Jay already said, it was hard for me to listen to while working. So I went on a run this week or last week. I don't think if the run was like lasting for the whole album, but yeah, maybe it's about, what's it? Oh, yeah, 1 hour, 2 minutes. Yeah, it could be. But I skipped a lot of
Yeah.
I have to admit, I skipped a few songs or
What
a
is
few.
our logo? We listen and we don't
we listen, we
skip.
don't skip. I know, my fault. But I would say I was more used to listen to metal in my youth because I'm coming from all the gothic and dark and sad stuff. So I'm familiar with bands like Rhythm Temptation and Nightwish, all the North bands. But I've never been such a hard person. I need some melody. So the songs really sticks out for me, the ones with the melody parts in it. And I had a real big problem with the songs which immediately starts with a lot of guitars and drums. And I thought my first impression was, oh my God, these guys will not waste a single second to not improve their skills. And I was like, okay, they will turn out every single thing they learned on the instruments. So I think I was also surprised by a lot of melodies that came through it. Yeah, I think for the people who are used to listen to harder stuff, it could be also a little bit like meditative. Is it the word?
Mm,
Like you
like
meditate
relaxing.
on
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
relaxing. I don't know if is this a state that you can reach through metal? No?
No, I don't think so. No. It's also not made for that, basically. There is definitely harder stuff out there, especially nowadays, right? Like, I have the feeling that if you go in the right branch of metal, you can definitely go way harder, way more brutal, right? There's some genre called grindcore where like a song lasts between 30 seconds to a minute, which is basically only static noise, right?
Okay. Beautiful.
So, yeah, very
That's
super nice.
meditative.
Mortician is, for example, a band you can listen to. Like, they take from Texas Chainsaw Massacre like 1 minute like talking, and then they
God.
do 20 seconds of music, and that's it, right? I
It's
love
a
it.
no from me, dog. I'm not listening to that, but okay.
But I think like metal overall will always try to push you forward, right? And there are some ballads on that
Well,
album,
yeah, can we what's
which
the
is
song?
also not to use like to common nowadays.
There's one song on there that almost sounds like a country song. Is it Metaphor? That sounds it's
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so different from anything else on there. And yeah, I mean, maybe that in itself is subversive, you know? Like, will shock them by playing something so normcore. Uh, but yeah, it was also fine to
No,
listen to.
definitely. It has all kinds of like they tried out a lot. You see that
Mhm.
really, right? And they showed really that they know their instruments. What you said, Isabel, like that they showed the knowledge of the instruments beyond metal as well, right? Even if it all has some metal taste to it, it's still also, yeah, the concept of doing something in a different way, risking to lose their fan base, which they basically also did for some kind, right? Every time these bands try to shift their genres, they get screamed at from their base fans, but the more they get then famous or more like doing normal kinds of music, the bigger the overall fan base gets, but the less like core
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
remain, right? And that's the thing, because I think a lot of these bands have the problem that at some point they always sound the same,
Mhm.
right? Because that's what the fans expect from them. But then as someone listening to that like 3 albums later, I'm like, But I
What's
listened to
next?
this album, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's always, I think, a pivotal moment when bands start to shift their music. Like, I think also a very, very common band that you can use for this example is Bring Me the Horizon, which was very hard in the beginning and now is basically almost pop music,
Yeah,
right?
the metal guy I spoke to yesterday said, "Bring me the horizon, but don't listen to any of their new stuff, only the old stuff."
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, there's also in Flames, right? If you listen to the albums nowadays, I wouldn't also recommend it anymore because they didn't do a second shift, so to say, and it sounds the same, but basically the entire, like, everybody that played in the band except for I think the singer left. They now have a new band that called the Halo Effect, and there they do more of the music that they wanted to do basically, and kept the In Flames alive, but they lost the touch, right?
They're
The
not
people that
evolving
came
anymore.
after. Exactly, because the people that evolved are not in the band anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's I think the thing why I also wouldn't recommend the last 3-4 albums or something, right? So that's the sad side of bands that are in the
But
business for
you
too
know, but
long,
this
right?
is also we've talked about before too, is that as you said, right? Like to stay relevant or to stay creatively engaged in what you're doing, you do have to evolve, which means you are absolutely going to piss off some of your original fans, which is just a part of it. And it seems to me that every time a new album comes out, you have half the people who are saying, "Oh my god, I love it," just because it's the person that they like that released it, and the other half saying, "Wow, this isn't as good as the last stuff." But over the next few months of hearing it, then it's, "Oh, it's actually pretty good. Okay, this is fine." And then that's always going to be what you're going to get. And sometimes a band releases an album that you just don't like, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean that you're going to hate their next one. It just means that, wait, okay, this one you didn't vibe with, and maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe if you listen to it in 10 years, you'll understand it more. It'll resonate more with you. You'll like it
Oh,
then.
definitely.
So whatever. So people on Reddit can just sit down, everyone calm down. It's fine. Whatever. You don't have to type a comment about everything. It's all good. What's your
No,
favorite
I
song on the
definitely
album?
think like everybody's favorite song, right? It's Cloud Connected. That's
Okay.
the
I
song,
was
right?
wondering if this yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably the one they also still play every concert they do. If not, then I don't know what to do there.
Okay, okay. That's what everyone's expecting, huh? That's like the Mr. Brightside of In Flames. They have to play Cloud
Probably.
Connected.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
What about you, Isa? Did you have a favorite?
Yeah, Cloud Connected sticks also out to me. And as you said, like Metaphors, like a little bit calmer and melodic one. This also was one of my favorites. And I was surprised because there was also a club remix of the Cloud Connected song. And I think this is kind of an honor to a metal band to get a club remix. What a great mix. Yeah, it was also fun to listen to this one. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I liked Cloud Connected as well, but I think the first one that stuck out to me was Egonomic. I
Economic.
like that one a lot. But I think upon my last few listens, my favorite's been Dawn of a New Day. So that's that one's also pretty cool. Yeah, but honestly, some
But
great
it's also
songs
a
on there.
slower one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, because of the club remix, they actually. Do you know the band Pendulum? Yeah, it's a drum and bass
Yeah, by
thing.
name, yes.
Yeah, they have also like a cooperation, like a feature with In Flames called Self versus Self, right? And that's also showing the mixture of like this metal with drum and bass, which basically goes, like, as I said before, the genre of drum and bass, a lot of metal people felt to have a comfort to go in their direction, right? And it's funny that these drum and bass stuff often evolved from metal as well.
Really?
The bands that came from that, because Pendulum is basically a band that plays drum and bass, and then like having a cooperation or a feature with In Flames, basically very nice, right? And it fits the genres, but fit very nice together. So I'm not too surprised to have a club remix of
I gotta hear
any
this.
song. But
I
I
know
have
I've got
to
to.
tell you, I don't know that one because, like, in my album version that my brother had, like, it wasn't there,
Of
right?
course. Cool. Any more thoughts on In Flames before we move on to our next album? No closing remarks? No? All right. Okay, well, thank you for the recommendation. Honestly, as I said, kind of opened my eyes, had me going on a little bit of a journey the last couple of weeks, which was really fun. And I've been listening to a lot more metal than I would have ever expected. So I'm excited to see my Spotify Wrapped this year and what evolves the rest of the year. But the next album, let's talk about the one that I recommended to you because I struggled to find an album because the first two that I recommended you already knew. So that's not the point of this project, obviously. We have to find something different. So I had to dig a little deeper and find a very local band from my hometown. So I recommended Ill Scarlet, which I also thought fit because we had been to Summer Jam last summer. And I thought, you know what? Ska. I know you liked Inner Circle, whatever. Maybe you can get a little on board with some ska as well. Yeah. Did you know this band beforehand?
No, I never
I
heard
would have
of
been
them.
shocked.
As you said, yeah, I actually Googled them because I was like,
Where did this
why do I
come from?
don't know that? And then I saw, yeah, exactly, and it's probably very local to where
It
you come
is.
from,
It
right?
really is. Yes. This band I knew because there was a song they had released that gained some popularity in Canada. That's Nothing Special. And I really loved this song. So that's kind of how I got into them. But I realized that they actually also had a song that was played in the FIFA under 20 tournament. So that was
Really?
the first song on the album. But honestly, I didn't know that one too well. So I also don't care or know anything about FIFA. So that makes sense, I guess. But these guys are from a small town in Canada outside of Toronto called Barrie. I think they set up their equipment and started playing in the parking lot out front of the Warp Tour, and that's how they got discovered, and that's how they got to release an album. And but they're super local. They played in like the clubs in my hometown. They played at my sister's university Frosh Week, but I like the sound of this one, so I thought let's hear what you guys think about it. What were your impressions?
Well, I have to say, like ska music for me, kinda at some point all sound the same.
That's fair.
I'm
That's
sorry.
fair.
It's like it has like this super like
Mhm.
uplifting spirit, right? Ska music, you cannot listen to ska and be
Yeah, yeah.
unhappy, right? It cannot be sad. So I think in that regard they're doing a very good job. And also like this Nothing Special, I
Yeah, that's
like
a
that,
sick
right?
song.
Actually
That's a
it
banger.
it just goes in there and it stays there, right? So I love it. But from the rest, I have to say, like, I was also listening to it. I listened through the entire thing, but at some point I was like, yeah, it's ska.
This is ska.
There you
Yep.
go. Like, this is. But how old is the album? I think also
It's
not
from
too.
2007, so it's pretty
Yeah,
old,
exactly.
almost 20
So
years.
basically, but I guess in that time it was still so pretty relevant,
Maybe
I
I don't
guess.
think they were ever commercially successful, honestly. So I don't
Okay.
know how culturally relevant it was, but
But I mean, at least in the
mhm.
genre, like in the genre where you had all these bands coming up, then all played this
Well, that's what I was
music.
gonna say. It
Well,
sounded quite similar to me upon re-listening. It sounds a lot like, honestly, Sublime or even yeah, even a little bit like Pixies, which is crazy because I know they are not typically a ska band, but I've always found some of their songs to kind of remind me of Sublime. So I liked it. I honestly was really enjoying the album and it felt very nostalgic to me. So I quite
okay,
enjoyed revisiting it, and some of the songs actually I found myself waking up thinking about and like having a craving to hear it in the morning. So even though Nothing
really
Special
okay.
was definitely the one that I really liked, I kind of cycled through different favorites on this re-listen. I really enjoyed Life of a Soldier, and I also enjoyed NTF a lot. But what about you, Zed? How was your experience listening to ska?
Yeah, ska is not really a genre I'm familiar with. So yeah, I also put it on while being on a run. I think it's also like the same as you said, Jay, with metal. It's really like pushing forward. You cannot be sad. You cannot be like, yeah, laying in bed and trying to rest while you're listening to this music. So I'm not surprised. This is a recommendation from you,
Mhm,
Alison.
mhm.
It's very upbeat and ongoing. So yeah, I cannot really say if there's a favorite one because the whole album fits together pretty well. And while doing something, listening to it, it really like is how
Like
you
it
say a
blends
good
together.
concept. Everything sticks together, and yeah, it's very smooth listening. I don't want to skip a thing, but I'm also not paying enough attention to pick
Sure.
one favorite. As you said, like Nothing Special as a song is pretty
It is
good, but I
special.
think
Who would
there
have
are
guessed? Nothing special is the most special.
But I'm always like thankful that we are having bands to talk about we will never ever cross upon. Well, this recommendation came up, and it's worth to get a deeper listen to other albums or songs from this band too, because it's always kind of hard to get an impression of an artist while just listening to one album, right?
Absolutely. No, I also felt the same with In Flames. I wanted to do a little bit of exploring and I wanted to listen to some of their other stuff as well, but I found it hard to know where to go because they have such an extensive discography, and so I just kind of put on their popular songs. And yeah, I think anything, if you're not actively listening to it and consciously listening to it, it is hard to kind of pick out things and notice it. And actually, I think it was through that, just listening to the top songs, that I first was like, ooh, this song's really cool with Cloud Connected. And then I was like, oh, that's actually on the album. Great, perfect. But yeah, no, it's funny too, Isa, when we talked about our like music backgrounds earlier, and you'd asked me what album was I most surprised by myself that I liked, and it was a different ska band, and I thought, this is so funny, this is the only like ska thing I like. And I'm like, no, that's actually not true. Maybe I do like ska much more than I think. Maybe I actually am much more interested in it, but you know what, that's okay. So I'll ride it. Maybe I'll check out some more in the genre, and I'll really lean in now. I'll get the
But this is a really good thing, like you're not judging music by its genre. This is very precious thing because as Jerry mentioned before, like the metal guys, the metal people are more like like sticking to the genre in general and maybe not so evolving. So this is a good thing you got.
Except when it comes to drum and bass, huh? But let's then talk about the album I saved for last to discuss, because I am so excited to talk about this one. Jay, you might have recommended my new favorite album. I am in love with October Forever. So this is Driveways. Immediately when you sent it, I put it on, and immediately I was like, oh, this sounds great. I like don't have the capacity to invest in this right now. I need to leave this. And it is creeping up on me. I have listened to the whole thing probably 100 times in the last 2 weeks. I was trying to find music videos about it. I tried to listen to some of their other stuff too. This is like the perfect marriage between Blink-182 and like Billy Talent or something. It's great. I love it. It's so catchy. And it's also such a fun album because they use the same lines. Like, I don't think I can hold it together. My my heart is turning cold with the weather. October Forever. They say this in like 10 different songs, just like at different points. And sometimes it's like spoken in the background. Sometimes this in the very first song it comes out. And it's creates this intense visualization that I'm like, what is the story? Did his girlfriend died or ghost is haunting? There's definitely a curse at some point they're talking about. It's unreal. What do you know the story? Do you know what their intention was behind this album?
I don't know the story, but I think overall it's like this coping with like failure or like endings or turning of events in their lives, right? You have this very, it's some depressive
pretty depressing themes
a lot, right? Yeah, exactly. And there's also like talk of death and like talk of like change and falling leaves and
October Forever, all about the season.
Exactly. And this being stuck in some kind of something where you cannot come out from, right? Because like the forever part and what you say, like you have this phrase that comes all the time, like in the first song, but also the last song, right? Which is then called, October Forever, right? This wraps this entire album from the top to the bottom, and really has this feeling of, hey, have this like depressive or this feeling that comes over me, something that.
I'm part of it now. Yeah, it's like, I'm over the terror. I'm part of it now. And yeah. Chills. It's so good.
in the beginning I thought like, is this MGK?
Mhm.
Because they had like some things like this trip hoppy like
Yeah.
hi-hat stuff that came, and I was like, what are they trying? Like, it's already a couple of years old, and I was like, are they like trying to go into the same
Mhm.
direction? But then I listened more to the lyrics, I listened more to how they do stuff, and I was totally fascinated by it, right? It's still like, since I started to listen to it, also like all the recommendations on Spotify, right? There are so many other good things on the different albums as
Yes.
well,
Well,
right?
I need to get more into the other albums because I have read online that each of their albums is kind of like a self-contained story like this, that they really do these concept albums, and that even in other albums they have like specific phrases that they're going to repeat, and that's kind of the theme of it. So I'm really curious. I have
But
to see what the other ones are.
I also think that they sometimes go into like other concepts they already
Okay.
had, right? There are some phrases that come also
This
from
is what I mean. I
other
want to know the lore. I want to know more
albums.
about this band. But it doesn't seem like they're very big. I mean, they have like 100,000
No, they are not.
followers a month or something. So
Think they have more listeners on
yeah.
Spotify than on YouTube, because on YouTube the videos are
The video was
basically not
it was
watched.
hilarious though, because the video well, I don't know if you guys know the show Are You Afraid of the Dark? So this was a very
No.
popular like North American TV show when I was a kid, and it was like each episode would be kind of a different urban legend or myth or scary story, and their music video for the song is the song called Are You Afraid of the Dark, isn't it? But the
Think so.
video is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
their faces like cut out on top of like scenes from this show. So that was, even though it was a silly video, I was like, this is also nostalgic. It's like I remember these episodes and stuff. So that was quite
I
cool.
think can it be that it's in German called Gänsehaut?
Maybe.
I think that's
No, that's Goosebumps. I
serious.
would
That
guess
has
that's Goosebumps.
okay.
Goosebumps was a book, and then they
Okay.
also made the show, but Are You Afraid of the Dark was just a show. It was
I
always
see.
kids around a campfire, and then they would tell a story. And that is why I'm afraid of vampires, is because the episode about the vampire that lived in the hospital was so scary that I was like terrified of vampires my whole childhood. So yeah, that show made an
You're
impact.
terrified. You're also terrified by album covers.
Yes, I am. Only certain album covers. There was no scary ones this time. It was okay. The little jack-o'-lantern
Right.
in October Forever wasn't too spooky. That was all right. But it was
Good that we didn't choose any other metal album, because
I
there's
bet.
quite some scary ones
I
out
think
there.
so. Isa sent me a few scary ones before. She likes finding the ones that trigger me. But yeah,
Just look at anything that's called Cannibal Corpse. There you go.
yeah, I'm not into this. Not going there. But how did you find this album? How did you get influenced?
I think so. I have a like pop punk playlist on
Mhm.
Spotify, right? I did like Intelligent Shuffle, and there suddenly it was. And then I was like, what is this? Like, why is there Machine Gun Kelly in
And
my
like that, all of our lives
playlist?
were
And then I was like,
changed.
exactly. And the funny thing is, like, basically, I sent it to one friend of mine. He was like, oh, this sounds way too much like Machine Gun Kelly. This is shit. I was like, okay, dude, you have no
You have
idea.
no idea.
I was still sticking to it because I loved it. And then, like a month or two later, completely different friend of mine just sent me October Forever, this
That's
song, and I
hilarious.
was like, what the fuck? And I was then telling him like,
Yeah.
I listened to this for 2 months, like I cannot stop
Mhm.
listening to it, and you sent it to me, and then he was also like. And I was like, why did Spotify put Machine Gun Kelly into my
Okay, I need to
playlist?
listen to Machine Gun Kelly. I never really I didn't know that it sounds like this. But okay, a
don't do
funny
it.
coincidence actually. So Neil's dad, he calls me Machine Gun Alley because I speak so fast. He says it sounds like a machine gun. And he didn't know that Machine Gun Kelly was a thing that existed. Like he just independently came up with this nickname. And I was like, okay, crazy. But now I need to listen to this. I need to figure it out. If it sounds anything like October Forever, I'm down. I want to hear him.
No, no. So basically, I think he tried hip hop, then he tried like this pop punk, and basically it's autotune and it's like this trip hoppy stuff, and he's acting as if he can play guitar,
Okay.
right? I don't think that he wrote anything by himself, but I think because they have some similarities in some regard of the sound, and Machine Gun Kelly is way bigger,
Yeah.
right? That's why people first listen to that,
Then
then
they
listen
listen to
to Driveways,
Driveways.
and then are like,
There's
something.
something here.
But maybe even Driveways tried to go in that direction at some point to get
Well, I
more,
saw that
but
they're
I
all
don't
still
know.
just working guys. Like they're commenting in the Reddit when people are talking about their tours and saying, "Oh yeah, it'd be great if they toured outside of like whatever, the Midwest." And they're saying, "Yeah, it's just hard because like we have to get to work on Monday, so we can't go too far." So it's like
Yeah,
literally just guys. So, but it's so cool that
yeah.
there seems to be a really supportive fan base for them on Reddit. It seems like a lot of people really like this album, and with good reason. It is, man, I think there should be a musical made. Like, I think they should actually make this into a pop punk rock musical because I can already see it in my head. This is fantastic. I love it. Isa, did you get a chance to check it out?
I really missed that information in our chat that there were 2 albums, but I'm totally
You
keen
have a
now
treat,
to get
yeah.
into this, and I have to go on the next run, so it keeps me
This is good running
going.
music. This is very good running music.
Yeah,
Very high energy.
yeah, good. I'm curious. I will check it out definitely. And do you know what the band is from? Did you mention that
Boston.
before?
Yeah, they're from Boston. I knew
Boston,
this the
okay.
second I heard it. They lean into the accent so hard. Somebody's chasing the
Okay.
car. Are you afraid of the? They rhyme car and dark because it's someone's chasing the car. I'm not so afraid of the dark. Like it's hilarious. They're so Boston, but it's fun. The accent's fun. It's enjoyable to hear.
I love that, right? You were saying, "Oh, are they from Boston?" I was like, "I don't know." I was googling, "Yeah, they're from Boston. Why do you know that?" And it's
So
such a thick
obvious.
accent. I'm like, "You sound the same."
Yeah, and if someone was singing with a Bayerisch or someone singing Skifahren with an Österreichisches accent, then of course they're gonna know that
Yeah,
too. So, but the Boston's
obviously.
one of the strongest ones. So interested now that you know if you can hear it. But Jay, what's your favorite song? I know, hard to pick just one. What are you going with?
Oh my god, I think actually not from that album. I would go
No,
for
no, no,
Skull
no.
and
We need to
Bones,
hear
to
from
be
this album.
honest.
What's your favorite from the album?
Oh, okay. I think Afraid of the Dark is really like that's when I wake up, I have it in my head sometimes, right?
How does that one?
Just to
What's the
start,
end of that one? The end I really like. Oh, because I like the end a lot because it moves into my favorite, 15 over 5.
15 over
Yes, I
5.
love it.
Yeah,
And the transition between
that's
the 2
also
is
good.
so good as well. And I'm trying to think of how it
But
goes.
also Cemetery Gates,
Also
right? That's
great.
also the text. The text of Cemetery
Yeah.
Gates is super nice. Like it's also
Wait, is
very
it
dark,
15 over 5? It's like,
very
I
deep.
want to burn, I don't deserve flowers and words. You'll never bury me under the ground. No, maybe that's
But
Cemetery
that's
Gates.
Afraid of the
Yeah,
Dark.
is that Afraid of the Dark?
No,
I don't know.
that's Afraid of the
Again, they use
Dark.
the same phrases all throughout, but it's so good. But I love the line in
Probably.
15 over 5 where they say, "You can't lose sleep. You can't lose sleep on a curse that forgot you. Like her ghost died. It's your own head that haunts you." Because it's like it's true. Like don't dwell on these things because you're the only one thinking about it. It's like if someone dies, they're fine. They're over it. Like don't waste your own life by thinking about it. And I think it's such a powerful message. And the whole album is just so cool. And there's so much symbolism too. Like they're mentioning like there's a bunch of references to Dante's Inferno as well. And it's just super rich text, super interesting to listen to.
I think they have a couple of references that I won't ever
Mhm.
understand because at some points they also do some name droppings and I have no clue what they're
Well, there was
talking
one they
about.
name dropped, and
But
I was like, are they talking about Ronald Reagan? They're like, I feel like Reagan, McNeil, and the end. I'm like, is that like a Boston thing? I didn't look
no,
into
I
that
think
one.
I don't think it's Ronald. It's Ronald Reagan. It's someone else. But it's like exactly that was also the
A
same
lot of
thing where I was
references.
stumbling upon. I was like, who
Yeah,
is that? What are they
probably
talking
easy
about?
to Google.
But
I
they
didn't
also
do
do
it
like
though.
movie
Yeah,
references and stuff, right? They do all kinds of
a
references,
lot of
right?
fun Easter eggs in there.
Yeah. There's also something with Montreal, right? This
Maybe
is it on that album?
I don't
I
know.
don't know,
Maybe.
remember anymore. But that's from some movie
Mm.
quote and stuff. It's really
Oh yeah, they
interesting.
talk about like all the scary movies. They're talking about Jason, Friday the 13th, and stuff. And it's like, yeah, totally. I loved it. Thank you for the recommendation. That one was phenomenal. I am still listening to it. I'm still going to keep listening. I recommended it to Lash as well. I'm recommending it to everybody. So great home run for
Uh,
me on that one.
Yeah, I knew it. I
Mhm,
knew
mhm.
it. I listened to it. I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
definitely Allison.
Isa, I'm excited to hear what you think when you get.
Yeah, I will definitely let you know. But guys, we have to put something on our
We
playlist
do.
from the In Flames album and then one from the recommendation Jay gave
So
us.
In Flames, it sounds like you guys both said Cloud Connected, and Cloud Connected's in my top ones as well. So I think I'm okay with putting that one on there. Are we all okay with this? All right,
Yes.
let's do it.
Definitely.
Ill Scarlet, I think it's nothing special. I think this is the only one we all had anything to say about, so we'll go with that one. And what about Driveways? I honestly could agree to anything on this one. Are You Afraid of the Dark? I think was probably maybe my second favorite.
Or October Forever. They're both
They're
so
both so
nice.
nice. I'm gonna say Are You Afraid of the Dark because I also like the tie-in with the music video. So we got
Okay,
we
fair
got and
fight.
maybe Isa can trump that though if she decides in the end that it's October Forever. Then it's 2 against 1. But it's great albums. I really enjoyed the music we listened to this week. It was really fun to try something different. And I was having the time of my life last week listening to all this new stuff and just going on tangents and trying different things. So really enjoyed it. I think though our last segment is we're just going to do maybe a question of the week. So sorry to catch you off guard. Have you seen the meme of the horse that is drawn and is like beautiful at the beginning and then it gets crappier and crappier? We're doing the opposite. What song can you think of that starts out kind of whatever and then by the end it's like unbelievable? And I'll give you guys a moment to think
God.
and I'll go first with mine because I asked the question. I'm thinking Muse Madness starts out about and then by the end it's I need your love. So that's my example of that song. Isa, do you have an answer?
We talked
Yeah,
about
come
this
on, you had
topic
a heads
before,
up.
but yeah, I was too busy, really. But I got a Queen song in my
Mhm.
mind, like I don't know the title, where they just start talking and talking about like improving like a cappella singing, and then it turns out into a masterpiece.
Ooh,
Maybe this, but who?
that could be
What's
the
that a
Prophet
song?
song. Either the Prophet song, Bohemian Rhapsody is kind of like that too, but I mean,
Yeah.
but I feel that with the Prophet song as well. I think that's a good example. What about you, Jay? Do you have an answer? Doesn't have to be perfect.
That's a
Whatever
really
comes to mind.
that's a really hard question. The problem is often the other way
Yeah.
around, right? It's a very good start, and
Hey, if you wanna flip it, you can give us one like that.
I was thinking about like a Day to Remember song, like City of Ocala or something, right? Because or a color, I don't know. It starts a bit like it's on one album of them. I think it's the first one, and you're like a bit like, what the hell? Where is this going? But I don't know. It always catches me in the beginning. I'm like, this is not the band I'm
Mhm.
used to listen to, and then in the end, it's like, oh yeah,
Melody.
okay, I know what they're gonna, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it- it's also good in. It's also good in the beginning.
We'll accept it. What's it called again?
It's a tricky
It is a tricky
question.
question.
Day to Remember, City of
City
Ocala. I
of
think it's where they come
Ocala,
from.
Ocala,
Ocala
something like that. All right.
with a
Gonna have to
C.
check it out then. All right.
Sure. I mean, Day to Remember is also a
Is
recommendation
this
I can
another
give to
metal
you.
band?
Definitely. It's softcore.
Okay. Still have to get familiar with what these
Soft.
genres are.
It's basically metalcore, but with clean singing and sometimes a little bit of shouting. But it's like, yeah, it's also old. It's also in the time of the metalcore core genre, but very soft. I would
I'll
say
give it a shot. I mean, now that
definitely
I'm all in on metal, I'm gonna have to learn all these
do it.
things anyways. So once again, though, we'll shout it out. Check out Jay. Check out Boiled Valhalla, April 4th, Cologne. Get your tickets. Where can people find you if they're interested in the band? What's the best way to stay involved and see what you guys are doing?
Obviously
Hmm.
boiled. I think our hashtag is boiled metal or boiled cologne. One of those.
Instagram, is that
Yeah,
where you guys are posting most of what you're doing? Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
cool. Jay, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for your recommendations. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your expertise and sharing a little insight into the metal world with us. It's been great.
Yeah, sure, no problem. It was fun, and thanks for having me.
And thanks for waking me up because now I'm all excited talking about October Forever and I'm feeling less lethargic than I was beforehand.
Perfect. Next time I see you, we can go
Yeah,
deeper,
yeah.
right? And then you have the other albums
Niels
as
will turn it
well.
off as soon as I put it on, but that's okay. We'll overrule him.
Yeah,
Isa, any
exactly.
last thoughts?
Yeah, we listen and we don't skip, but I have to admit, sometimes I skip when it comes to metal.
Thank you for your honesty. But yeah, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time.